Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Poe, and today I'm wrapping up my Space Opera September reads. Space Opera September is a readathon that ran all throughout September, hosted by Thomas at SFF 180. I'll link all of the information about the readathon below. So for Space Opera September, I ended up reading 4 space operas, 3 of which were on my TBR, and I'm very, very pleased that I got to them. And I just had such a good time with these reads. They were really engaging and really lifted up my reading for the entire month of September. So I will talk about these 4 books, and there are timestamps and content warnings in the description box below. The first 2 space operas I read were books 2 and 3 in the Lady Astronaut series, The Fated Sky and The Relentless Moon by Mary Robinette Kowal. I was so happy to get to these because The Relentless Moon is actually nominated for a Hugo in the novel category this year, so this was a kind of top priority for me for Space Opera September. So this is a series that starts with the first book, The Calculating Stars, and it is an alternate history set in the 1950s where a meteorite hits Earth and it causes severe weather changes such that within a few decades it will no longer be possible for humanity to live on the surface of the Earth. So this accelerates sort of the space programs and causes a lot of international cooperation, as well as opens up opportunities for women and people of color to be part of this kind of space race, because really everybody is needed to get humanity off the planet. So I won't go into too much detail about the plots of each of these because they do follow on from the first book. But in the second book, The Fated Sky, we follow a team of astronauts who are doing the first manned mission to Mars. And it is a very engaging, very intense space opera where we have all of these astronauts trying to survive really the complications that come up when you're flying a manned mission and you have no support in terms of no connection with Earth. And so anything that goes wrong, you've got to solve it. And in space, a lot of things can go wrong. And so this was really good, and it also has a lot of sort of personal development and interpersonal connections and things like that. It was such a really engaging and just kind of one of those things where you feel so connected to what the astronauts are doing and you respect everybody so much and you just want them to succeed. So that was such a good read. And then the last book in the series, The Relentless Moon, follows sort of closer to Earth a group of people who are on the moon colony. But there's quite a bit of difficulty because there are some kind of saboteurs. There are some people who are Earth firsters, or basically a group of people who think that all of the governments are wasting money by spending them on space programs when really they should be kind of taking care of all the people on Earth who are already suffering because of the severe weather changes. And so this is kind of an espionage thriller, actually. I was a little surprised. There's definitely tons of science in this as well, and it's taking place on the moon, all these sorts of things. But it was a little bit stressful. I don't usually read thrillers. I think that if you like thrillers, though, and you like sci-fi, 100% recommend this. Really a very engaging read. The next book that I read was The Vanished Birds by Simon Jimenez. This was also a high priority for me because Simon Jimenez is nominated for a Hugo for Best New Author, and I'm so glad that I got to this because it was just stunning. So the basic premise of the story is that we're following a captain of a spaceship, Nia Imani, who is very jaded and, you know, she's just working day to day to try to make ends meet doing cargo runs. But one day she and her crew discover a mysterious young boy that they end up taking into their fold, and they really develop a bond with him, except that there's some other people who also have an interest in him. So this is just such a beautifully written book. I would call this more literary space opera. It really has poetry in the way that it's written, and it has a lot of layers, and often, especially in the second half of the book, it gets very abstract, but it was just so beautiful, and I loved all of the characters and the focus on kind of personal connections and personal growth, and also themes, a lot of themes that are related to both the people and the science. So there's this really interesting focus on memories and time, and especially how cryogenic sleep and space travel with time dilation, everything like that affects it. So such a great book, especially if you like things a little bit more literary, a little bit more abstract. Really wonderful. I have an entire review for it because this is just one of the best reads that I've had this year. Loved it. So I will link that review below if you're interested, but I really recommend this book. And lastly, I read a space opera comic book, Invisible Kingdom Volume 3 by G. Willow Wilson, illustrated by Christian Ward and Sal Cipriano. So this is the final book in this trilogy, the Invisible Kingdom trilogy, and this is such a great comic series. It is incredibly beautifully illustrated. The colors are so vibrant. I love the world building. I loved the themes. And this third book kind of wraps everything up. It's a little bit action paced for my style, but that makes sense also for space opera and comic books. And I just really liked a lot of the way that everything was handled, even if it was a little bit more action based than I prefer personally. But it really focuses a lot on sort of faith and religious fanaticism and corporate greed and kind of people with torn loyalties and people who are very jaded trying to find purpose. So there's a lot of cool themes in this, and just really the artwork is stunning. So if you like space opera and you like graphic novels or comic books, definitely you should pick up this series. Okay, so that is everything that I read for Space Opera September. I had such a fun time with this readathon. These reads were just so much fun, and really I got a lot of things checked off my list of books that I for sure wanted to get to this year, so I had a great time. If you guys have read any of these, if you have any thoughts, anything you want to chat with me about, just leave me a comment down below.